The observable universe contains more stars than every grain of sand on every beach on Earth, combined. And yet up and down, the most basic directions your brain relies on don't exist out there the way you think they do. Not globally, not universally. Which means one of the most common questions people ask about space is quietly broken from the start. What actually lies above our solar system? Because above depends on what you choose as your reference. And in space, references are choices, not features stamped into the cosmos. So here's the real mystery. Even if directions are arbitrary, the universe repeatedly exhibits layered environments, boundaries, regimes, transitions where the rules or conditions change, and those layers matter because they shape what happens to planets, atmospheres, radiation, and life. To understand what lies above our solar system, we have to do something more precise than point upward. We have to build a stack of reference frames, Earth scale, solar system scale, and galactic scale, and then follow the physical layers outward. Start with the simplest correction. Down is not a direction in space. Down is the direction of acceleration caused by gravity. On Earth, down points toward Earth's center. In orbit, astronauts feel weightless because they're in continuous free fall, falling around Earth, not sitting on a floor. If you drift far from large masses, gravity becomes weak, and the idea of a single down mostly disappears. Your body wants a vertical axis, but the universe doesn't owe you one. So when someone says down is arbitrary in space, that's mostly true with a caveat. It's not arbitrary in a gravitational field, it's just local. Down exists wherever gravity dominates your motion, but it does not define a cosmic orientation. That's why astronomers use reference frames. Within the solar system, the most useful flat direction is the ecliptic plane, the average plane of Earth's orbit around the Sun. Most planets orbit close to that plane because they formed from a rotating disk of gas and dust. Once you define that plane, you can define above and below relative to it. But that still doesn't make above universal. It makes it useful. It turns above into a coordinate choice, north of the ecliptic, south of the ecliptic. The maths works because we agree on the definitions. Now zoom out slightly and the word above becomes more physical. Not because direction becomes real, but because environments change as you move away from the sun. The solar system is not just empty space with planets sprinkled in it. It is filled with plasma, magnetic fields, radiation, dust, and a constant flow of particles from the sun. As you move outward, you cross boundaries where those conditions shift. The first major layer is the solar wind. The sun is not quiet. It releases a continuous stream of charged particles, mostly electrons and protons, flowing outward at hundreds of kilometers per second. That flow carries the sun's magnetic field with it, spiraling through space because the sun rotates. This is space physics in the most literal sense, a star shaping the conditions of outer space around it. That extended region, dominated by the solar wind and the sun's magnetic influence, is called the heliosphere. If you want a clean scientific answer to what lies above our solar system, the heliosphere is part of it, because it's not above in a directional sense, but around in an environmental sense. It is the sun's bubble of influence inside the interstellar medium. But here's where it gets interesting. The heliosphere isn't a perfect sphere. It's shaped by the pressure of the interstellar medium the solar system is moving through. Imagine a boat moving through water. The water pushes back, shaping a bow wave. In a similar way, though the physics is plasma and magnetic pressure, not water, the heliosphere is compressed on the upwind side and stretched on the downwind side. Some researchers have used analogies like a deflated croissant to describe certain model shapes because it's squashed and asymmetric rather than balloon round. What does this layer do? One of its most important effects is radiation modulation. The galaxy is full of high-energy particles called galactic cosmic rays, accelerated by supernova remnants and other energetic processes. These particles can penetrate atmospheres and materials, damaging biological tissue and altering chemistry. The heliosphere helps reduce the intensity of those cosmic rays reaching the inner solar system. It's not an impenetrable shield, and its effectiveness changes with solar activity, but it is a meaningful protective environment. That's a crucial reframing. The solar system is not just a set of orbits. It is a nested physical regime, and this is the first example of the universe repeatedly exhibiting layered environments, an inner region with one set of radiation conditions and an outer region with another. Now push farther out past Neptune, past the Kuiper belt, and you reach the edge of what we directly map in detail. Beyond that is a region that is still part of Sirius astronomy, but is much harder to observe, the Oort Cloud. The Oort Cloud is not a photographed shell. It's an inference, a model supported by patterns in comet orbits. Specifically, long-period comets arrive from all directions, not just from the plane where most planets orbit. Their orbits suggest a distant reservoir of icy bodies distributed in a roughly spherical way around the solar system. This is where authority matters. Most astronomers treat the Oort Cloud purely as a dynamical reservoir, a population of objects whose orbits can be perturbed by passing stars or the galactic tide, occasionally sending comets inward. It's not typically framed as a boundary in the way the heliosphere is, because it doesn't form a single, measurable surface. It's a statistical structure, a huge, sparse cloud of debris. But even as a hypothesis, it matters for the question of what lies above our system, because it changes the geometry. The inner solar system feels like a disk. The Oort Cloud, if it exists as modeled, is more like a sphere. So as you move outward, the solar system's shape, in terms of where material resides, becomes less like a plate and more like an extended three-dimensional volume. And notice what just happened. We moved from a gravitationally dominated region of planets in a plane to a magnetic plasma-dominated heliosphere to a distant gravitationally shaped reservoir inferred from orbital dynamics. Different regimes, different methods, different evidence. That's the real science story. Not what's up, but what changes as you go out. Now zoom out again. The solar system is not floating in a featureless void. It's inside a galaxy, the Milky Way, and the galaxy itself gives you a larger scale definition of above and below. The Milky Way is a disk galaxy. Most of its stars, gas, and dust are concentrated in a rotating disk with spiral arms. That disk has a plane, the galactic plane. Above and below that plane lies the galactic halo, a more diffuse region containing older stars, globular clusters, hot gas, and critically, most of the galaxy's dark matter mass. So if you want a meaningful cosmic above, the best candidate is above the galactic plane, because the galaxy has structure that makes that direction physically distinct. The environment above the plane differs from the environment in the plane. Density drops, gas clouds thin out, star formation decreases, radiation fields shift. The probability of encountering dense molecular clouds changes. Even the rate of nearby supernova events differs statistically with location. Now, our solar system isn't perfectly aligned with the Milky Way's plane. It's tilted relative to it. That sounds dramatic, but it's also common. Systems have inclinations. The key point is that this tilt changes how you visualize up. If you draw the solar system as a plate, that plate is angled compared to the galaxy's plate. Does that tilt have consequences? Possibly, but the magnitude of those consequences remains an open research question. What we can say with confidence is that a system's position and motion through the galaxy affects the interstellar environment it experiences over time. The solar system orbits the Milky Way's center roughly every couple 100 million years, bobbing slightly above and below the galactic plane and passing through spiral arm regions. Those journeys can change local densities, magnetic field conditions, and the background radiation environment. And when the external environment changes, the heliosphere can change too. If the solar system passes through denser interstellar clouds, external pressure can compress the heliosphere. If it moves through more rarefied regions, the heliosphere can expand. That matters because the heliosphere modulates cosmic rays, so galactic environment and solar shielding are connected across scales. This is where the video stops being a geometry lecture and becomes a physical investigation. The solar system is nested inside larger systems, each imposing boundary conditions. The sun plasma bubble inside the galaxy's interstellar medium, inside the galaxy's dark matter-dominated halo, inside the larger cosmic web. So what actually lies above our solar system? If you mean above relative to Earth, that's just space, a vacuum with local fields, particles, and radiation. If you mean above relative to the solar plane, it's still the same heliosphere and radiation environment, but your coordinates change. If you mean above relative to the galactic plane, then above takes on physical meaning, lower density regions of the halo, different cosmic ray pathways, different distributions of gas, and the gravitational influence of dark matter dominating the mass budget. And this is the cleanest conclusion science supports. Above is not a direction the universe gives you. It's a direction you define. But once you define it in a structured system like a galaxy, the environments along that direction really are different. Let's summarize the evidence stack, because authority in science comes from method. We know down is local because gravity is measurable. It's acceleration. We model planetary planes because we track orbits precisely. We know the heliosphere exists because spacecraft instruments measure plasma and magnetic field transitions. We infer the Oort Cloud because comet orbits point to a distant reservoir consistent with dynamical models. We know the Milky Way has a plane and a halo because we map stars, gas, dust, and motion across the sky using telescopes across wavelengths, radio, infrared, optical, and we infer dark matter from gravitational effects. At every step, we also keep what's unresolved in view. That uncertainty isn't weakness, it's the frontier. So the next layer, the one we haven't climbed yet, is beyond the Milky Way itself. The galaxy isn't alone. It's part of a local group of galaxies, and those galaxies are arranged along filaments of the cosmic web, a large-scale structure shaped by dark matter and the expansion history of the universe. In the next episode, we go from above the solar system to